Do you have wavy hair or curly hair, type 2 hair or type 3 hair, and what is the difference? A lot of people find this confusing, and it's something that can be a little bit challenging to talk about because the way that people use the terms wavy and curly can vary a lot, and people can have really strong opinions about how these terms should be used. So it's not always an easy conversation to start in a curly hair group or wavy hair group. So I thought I would try to tackle this question just because I know it's a common one that people have. Basically, wavy hair is a loose curl pattern. And I think most of us know that, but it still can be confusing to know where does wavy hair end and curly hair begin. Does your hair curl from the root? So if you look at my hair, it's pretty straight up at the top, and that is true for wavy hair. It kind of will gain a little bit more texture as it goes down, and then a lot of people, it gets the curliest at the very bottom. This is especially true for my hair right now. It's very bottom heavy, and to some degree, how you style your hair and your haircut can impact that. But just as a general truth, if you have truly curly hair, meaning type 3 curly hair, your hair will be curly all the way up. It's commonly said that wavy hair starts about the ears. That can vary a little bit, but you get the general idea. Somewhere in here, if that's where your texture really starts, then you have wavy hair. Type 3 curly hair will be a consistent texture from the top to the ends. Wavy hair often starts straighter up high and gets curlier as it goes down to the ends. So why is the difference between wavy hair and curly hair so confusing? I think there are really several reasons that make this a complicated topic. First and foremost, waves are a curl type. Because it is a type of curly hair is sort of this big umbrella that means like textured hair, but then it's also a specific subset of curly hair. And so sometimes when people are using the phrase curly hair to mean this big umbrella spanning from wavy to kinky or coily, people think that they're saying their hair is type 3 hair. They think they're referring to the subset of curly hair, and so that can be confusing. Sometimes people get confused about wavy versus curly hair because people think that if hair spirals, that makes it a curl. So I'll try to show you with one of mine. So this hair starts off pretty straight, and then it starts to wave a little bit, and then way down here it spirals. So I can put my finger up through because it twists all the way around. And so a lot of people, I guess kind of outside of wavy and curly hair groups, would think of that as a curl because it does twist all the way around. But if it were if I had like truly curly hair, type 3 hair, it would do this much higher up. And so you can have wavy spirals, and that's a little bit confusing because a lot of times waves are described as S-shaped. And I think more frequently than all of the hair just being S waves, they kind of start as S waves partway up the hair, and then they'll sometimes spiral more at the bottom. I think, and you don't even have to have like type 2C waves to have a spiral. A lot of times even 2B, I would call this like a 2B wave, but it has a spiral at the end of it. Another thing that can cause confusion is people who have straight hair who use a curling iron to curl their hair won't curl from the root. So technically, if you have straight hair and you use a curling iron, you have created waves in your hair. But it's very normal to say that they have curled their hair. They've used a curling iron, not a wave iron. And so I think that's confusing if we think of heat-styled curly hair as curly. Then if we see hair that looks like that but is from a more natural texture, it's easy to think, well, that's curly too because it looks like she curled it with a curling iron. But that's technically wavy. Part of it is also just the language, even within the curl community. I'm somebody who is happy to refer to my hair as wavy. I'm not somebody who has, taken a real issue with wanting to declare my hair as curly. I say wavy curly sometimes. Um, but to me, it's not a big deal to just call it wavy. I don't see that as a slight or as anything lesser or whatever. So most of the time, on my blog, on my social media platforms, I refer to my hair as wavy. But there are still certain parts of talking about my hair that I just can't bring myself to say wave or wavy. One common example of that is when talking about curl clumps. I say curl clumps because wave clumps is just sounds funny. I've just never heard anybody refer to wavy hair as having wave clumps, so I say curl clumps. Um, and so there are just certain um, phrases or terminology or the way that we talk about wavy hair, even wavy hair specifically, where for whatever reason it's just very normalized to refer to it as curl rather than wave. So that's kind of an odd uh, thing that it just is based on, I guess, what is normal or how people use language. Something else that I think contributes to confusion about wavy versus curly hair is just a misunderstanding of what naturally wavy hair really is or what it would really look like. I know that as a kid, I thought wavy hair was really rare. I thought that, or naturally wavy hair, I should say. I thought that naturally wavy hair was that look that you can get if you have straight hair and you braid it while wet and then let it dry and, it kind of like ripples back and forth. Or I thought it was that look that you can get from those curling irons, or I don't know what they call them, but they have like two barrels, and then so your hair, it like literally makes a wave out of your hair if you crimp it with those. Those were kind of a thing in the 90s, and I think they're kind of coming back a little bit. But those make a pattern that looks similar to braided hair that's been dried. And so it's just hair that goes in and out and doesn't spiral at all. And that's what I thought naturally wavy hair would look like. And I very rarely saw people who had that look naturally. And so I thought wavy hair is just really rare. And I don't think that's true. I think wavy hair is extremely common. It's just that when I was seeing hair that looked curlier than like braided wavy hair or hair that has used one of those waver, like double barrel curling iron things, I thought that was curly. I guess another way of saying that is I think people think that if hair has definition to it, if you have specific curl clumps, um, people associate that with curly hair. I don't think people recognize that wavy hair can be defined in curl clumps or wave clumps. Really briefly, I want to cover why it's controversial. And I don't want to go too in depth on this because I don't really think it's exactly my place to go into this. But I do want to address it just because with talking about a topic like this, I think it's likely to bring out people who are really bothered by being told that their hair is wavy and not curly, or that they should call it wavy instead of curly. And so I think it's important to discuss where these sensitivities about the difference between wavy and curly hair come from. I think the most important piece of that is that a lot of times it's racially related. Um, there is prejudice related to tightly curly hair that, as a white person, I just can't relate to. And to me, it's kind of as simple as if people from a minority community feel like people with hair similar to mine shouldn't refer to their hair as curly, then it's just not a big deal for me to respect that. I don't think it's something I have to fully even understand to just respect that that's fine. It's not a big deal to me. Um, and it's not just racial either. Um, a lot of times people who grow up with tightly curly hair, type 3 hair, or type 4 hair, um, have just felt like they have faced a lot of bias for their hair growing up that people with wavier hair just can't relate to. And I don't think that's to say that there aren't challenges of growing up or with having wavy hair. In blog posts and things, I've talked a little bit about my own struggles with my hair and disliking my hair because it was frizzy and poofy, and thinking that I had bad straight hair. And so there's a little bit of challenge in that, and I've had struggles with not liking my hair. But I do think it's different than somebody who has really tightly curly hair and has grown up from like a toddler or whatever being told that their hair is crazy or that it needs to be managed or that it's out of control, or um, adults are told that their hair isn't professional. Those types of challenges are just different from me thinking my hair is a little too poofy or a little too frizzy, or wishing that I didn't have to straighten it for it to look like nice straight hair. The other piece that I think causes a little bit of frustration with people with wavy hair calling their hair curly is that it is currently more trendy to have curly hair. And so there are people who have naturally wavy hair, but who have really versatile hair to where they could take a shower, brush their hair, let it air dry, and their hair would look really nice as straight hair. And then they also have the opportunity to just add gel, diffuse it, or brush style it, and have really nice wavy hair. And that's not true for all people with wavy hair. Some people with wavy hair don't feel like they can get nice, straight looking hair if they style it straight. Um, but for a lot of wavies, that is true. And sometimes that causes frustration because it can feel a bit opportunistic, I think, especially for people who felt like they had no choice but to cope with their tighter curly hair. Um, I think they can feel frustrated that they had to have curly hair their whole life and there was nothing they could do about it when it wasn't cool to have curly hair. Where people with versatile wavy hair could have straight hair when straight hair was cool, and now can identify as having wavy or curly hair now that it's more trendy, and that just causes frustration for people, I think.